You know, sometimes the biggest truths, they aren't shouted, are they? They're sort of whispered. In observing something small, like um, the moment an iguana, all vibrant and jewel-like in the sun, just instantly fades, goes dull gray, concrete gray the second it dies. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? Where did all that color go? Where's the value, the life, really? And what happens when that spark leaves something beautiful?
That's a really striking image. And it comes from this fascinating book a listener shared with us. It's a chronicle, really, of these intensely personal experiences, observations, life on a farm high up in the African highlands.
Yeah, full of encounters with people, animals, events, and it just reveals these unexpected layers of, well, insight, perspective. So our mission here is to sort of unpack those layers, find those surprising truths hidden inside.
Exactly. And as we explore this book, you'll find, I think, so many moments for reflection, for seeing things differently.
And that kind of thoughtful analysis, that critical thinking, that's exactly what we try to inspire. It's also actually the focus of our YouTube channel, Mindful Moments. We use AI analysis there to explore other books, really designed to help you, our listener, develop the same qualities.
Absolutely. Finding those moments that make you pause. And this book, it just throws you right into this vivid sense of place from the start.
It really does.
Yeah.
What does the author tell us about the setting itself?
Well, it's described as living up in the air, the sky. It's rarely just simple blue, often pale blue, maybe violet, dramatic clouds, mighty, weightless, ever-changing clouds.
Wow.
And the air itself isn't still. The author feels it's alive over the land, like a flame burning. It shimmers, scintillates, creates these huge Fata Morgana illusions.
And breathing that air, there's this feeling of ease, a vital assurance and lightness of heart, I think was the phrase.
Yes.
Waking up and just thinking, here I am where I ought to be. That sense of belonging. It's so powerful, and the book really captures it. It makes you feel it too,
Definitely. And that physical setting, it's the backdrop for encounters with just a fascinating range of people. First up, the Somali.
Right. Their villages, they might look temporary, like nailed together to last for a week.
Yeah, that's the description. But then you step inside their homes, and it's completely different. Surprisingly neat, fresh, smells of incense.
Richly decorated, too. Carpets, hangings.
Yes, fine carpets, treasures. And the women are described so warmly. Dignified, gentle, hospitable, gay, their laughter like silver bells.
Lovely. And the author's servant, Farah Aiden, he's key here, isn't he?
Very key. He connects her to the Somali community, takes her to feasts, even this magnificent wedding. The description of the bridal chamber hung with glowing weavings. It's kind of something.
And the Somalis are traders, cattle dealers.
That's right. Known for their cattle and their use of donkeys and camels, described as these haughty, hardened products of the desert.
But what really shows their mindset, you were saying, are the tribal quarrels, their reasoning. Tell us about Farah and Saeed's leg.
Ah, yes. It's a perfect example. So Farah's friend Saeed breaks his leg in a tribal fight. But instead of sympathy for the injury, Farah's first reaction is basically, serves him right.
Really?
Yeah. He says, that was good enough for Saeed. Why must he go and drink tea in the house of a Habra Chalo? The tribal mistake, visiting an enemy, completely overshadows the physical harm in his mind.
Wow. That highlights their, severe nature, but also this keen sense of gratitude and malice, written in stone, the book says.
Exactly. Behavior affects them deeply, maybe more so than some other groups described. They have this powerful sense of prestige.
And Farah himself, he's central, utterly devoted, apparently, even walking behind the author near the end, dressed like Solomon in all his glory.
A striking image. And they also had this distinct view of their relationship with the local Kikuyu, didn't they?
Like a sheepdog to the sheep.
That's the one, right. Yeah. So, moving from the Somali, the book also talks about the Indian merchants in Nairobi, big presence in the bazaar.
Yes, and they built villas outside town with a very particular taste in stonework.
Very particular. Stairs, balusters, vases. The author compares it to children building with pink ornamental bricks.
But they were also described as clever, traveled, highly polite, gave tea parties.
They did. Yet there's a sharp observation tucked in there. The author notes they're such grasping tradesmen, it's hard to tell if you're dealing with a person or just the firm.
Ah, right. And that anecdote about Farah's reaction to Suleiman Virji's death captures that perfectly.
It really does. When told Suleiman Virji is dead, Farah just says half dead.
Half dead.
Yeah. Then he clarifies, Suleiman is dead, Virji is alive. The business identity, Virji, is separate from the man. Suleiman still exists.
Fascinating. Okay, so next. The Maasai, neighbors to the farm.
Neighbors, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Nomadic, cattle-owning people. They sometimes come to the author asking for help dealing with lions.
But the author sees them through this quite tragic lens, doesn't she? A dying lion with his claws clipped. A castrated nation.
It's a very stark comparison, losing their spears and shields under colonial rule. She links their fate directly to her own castrated bulls on the farm. It's powerful.
And there's that observation about them not surviving imprisonment, dying within months.
Yes, which apparently led to them only being punished by fines. This inability to live under the yoke, as the book puts it, it gives them a kind of rank with the immigrant aristocracy.
And they remember things, can thank, but also bear a grudge against us all.
That's the feeling conveyed. And this leads into a really profound idea the author explores.
About tragedy.
Yeah, that the true aristocracy and the true proletariat of the world are both in understanding with tragedy. They don't deny it, unlike the bourgeoisie of all classes.
And the story of Emmanuelson, that visitor who finds refuge and kindness among the Maasai, that seems to illustrate this point.
It really reinforces it. Shows their depth, their capacity for hospitality, even when facing their own hardships. Contrasts them with others.
And they're quite distinct from the Somali, aren't they? Different approaches to religion, cleanliness, morals.
Very distinct. No religion versus religious. Different hygiene standards mentioned. Different views on premarital relations for young women.
Yeah.
Yet, interestingly, Somali men could marry Maasai women historically.
Why was that?
Because the Maasai had never been slaves. That was the key distinction, apparently. Prestige again.
The book paints these vivid pictures, too. The young warriors, the Morani, in war paint, lion skin headdresses.
Oh, yeah. And the younger boys, the Leone, herding cattle. Even the visiting juvenile Maasai soldier girls checking themselves in a mirror like angry young carnivora. Very memorable images.
And Lord Delamere's camp, like the lion's den, where visitors, especially messengers, might just sort of disappear, well-fed, but not returning.
Exactly. A bit ominous, but part of the legend.
Okay. And finally, the Kikuyu, primarily farm laborers, often young, optimistic.
That's the general picture. And this is where the book really digs deep into that contrast between European and African ideas of justice.
Right. This is a central theme, the African principle being replacement rather than motive.
Exactly. Replacement over seeking motive. If someone is killed, whether it's murder or an accident, the loss to the community has to be made up, usually in livestock.
Yeah.
Sheep and goats. And time doesn't really factor in.
Which initially really clashed with the author's own ideas of justice.
Strongly.
Yeah.
And the shooting accident story is the key example here, unfolding over quite some time.
Tell us about that. It involved a young boy, Cabero.
Yes, 7-year-old Cabero, playing with a gun, accidentally injures another boy, Wanyangari, and kills a third, Wamai.
Terrible.
Absolutely. And the tribal assembly, the Kanama, meets their plan to shear Kaninu, Kabero's father, as close as possible, make him pay the indemnity.
And the author feels sympathy for Kaninu, because he's also lost his son, Cabero, who's presumed dead or missing at this point.
Right. Kaninu is described as this big squatter, lots of cattle, wives, an old, lean man, shrewd face, representing orthodox wealth. But his fate is tough. He has to pay sheep to Wainaina, Wanyangari's father, even before a final judgment. Then they ask for a cow and calf.
And the description of Kaninu, silent, looking ill, that glance when offered hospital help, lifting his hand as if wiping off a tear.
It's incredibly poignant. The author notes it's a strange thing should Kaninu have tears. We do find out later that Cabero is actually alive, living with the Maasai, but Kaninu still goes through immense hardship settling the debt.
And Wanyineri's injury means his father, Wainaina, and grandmother come to the farm for milk.
Yes, because the boy could chew no maize. Wainaina is described rather unflatteringly as a mental troglodyte, and his old mother as having graceless vitality. Their real names were Uraka and Lascaro.
And the houseboys weren't comfortable with this, saw them as freeloading.
Pretty much. It caused some tension.
The book also notes the Kikuyu reaction to hospital care, sort of grumbling, trying to leave, not fearing death.
Yeah. Which apparently led to some bitterness among Europeans about a perceived lack of gratitude. It is the same what you do to them, was the complaint.
But the author offers a different interpretation, right? Contrasting the Kikuyu lack of obvious gratitude or malice, what you do just disappears with the Somali and Maasai who remember everything.
Exactly. The Kikuyu view, as she interprets it, is that people are capable of almost anything. You can't really shock them. They see European actions almost like forces of nature, observing but not judging in the same way.
Their good or bad name is just the sum total of these observations, like the very poor people of Europe.
That's the comparison she draws. People who expect little aren't surprised by failings. Keen observers, though.
There's that charming story, too, about the hospital patients wanting to leave together to get a ride, and the boy coming back for the slower horn player.
Yes. And the boy's comment later, seeing a lion at a zoo, saying it looked as villainous as you were to the horn player. Just a unique blend of observation and maybe dark humor.
Huh. And Kamante, another key figure, his return from hospital. With restrained dignity and repressed triumph, the theatrical bandages.
He definitely had a sense for drama and a focus on pleasing the author, giving her pleasure through these performances almost.
His question about Christianity and bows and arrows is memorable, too.
Oh, yes. Are you a Christian still when you're shooting with a bow? I thought that the Christian way was with a rifle. Such a direct, logical question from his perspective.
And the author showing him the Bible picture of Hagar's son, the archer, leading to Kamante saying simply, he was like you.
A beautiful moment of connection across huge cultural divides. Simple, but profound.
Kamante also brought snuff to the old dancers, didn't he? Despite Farah waving it away, recognizing it as a reality for them.
Yeah, showing a different kind of understanding, something immediate, real, beyond just rules.
The death of Chief Kanandri is another powerful section. His final journey, the injury from a cow, gangrene.
His wish to die. Not a kakufa. I want to die. And the whole discussion around succession. The Christian versus the heathen son, showing the times changing.
The description of driving to his village at night. The moon, the mist, the quiet, and the funeral itself. Kinanjui being lowered into the ground of his own country.
Very moving. And Farah's distress that the author wouldn't take the dying chief into her own house, highlighting that cultural difference in how death is approached.
And that small image at the end. Suringa, Kaninu's grandson, saying goodbye over and over, running after the car, like the final little spark from my fire.
So poignant, stopping right at the farm road corner. A symbol of that lingering connection, maybe.
The Kikuyu, despite everything, are described as having this immense gift for resignation, getting through things, being friends with God in foreign countries.
Yes, and this powerful self-perception towards their, tormentors, a quiet defiance. You are here on our account. You exist for our sake, not we for your sake. Quite a perspective shift.
Absolutely. Okay, and then briefly, the French fathers at the mission station.
Right. Their place felt almost European, didn't it? Like Switzerland or northern Italy. Built with native help, a well-run coffee plantation, too.
Friendly, offering wine, knowledgeable about the colony.
Very knowledgeable. And they drew news out of visitors, like small, lively groups of brown, furry bees. A great image.
But they were also exiles, weren't they? Patiently obeying higher orders, but always feeling temporary, ready to go beeline back to Paris.
Exactly. You felt that sense of transient presence, guided by some unknown authority.
And the visit of the Somali women to their church is just beautiful.
Oh, it really is. Their awe at the high building, holding hands over their heads in case it fell. Their reactions to the statues sighing at the Virgin's beauty, appreciating St. Joseph with the child.
Especially Farah's wife, who was expecting, and the young cousin, totally absorbed by the stained glass, wringing her hands, knees bending.
Pure fascination. And then later their practical question, could the statues come down? That mix of awe and realism is wonderful.
It really is. Okay, so moving from the human landscape, the book then really delves into nature, life's mysteries. The animals aren't just background, are they? They're symbols, teachers, leading to some quite philosophical thoughts.
Definitely. Seeing buffalo emerge from mist like they were being created before my eyes, elephants moving through the forest, eland looking like something out of an old Egyptian epitaph, giraffes keeping their distance.
The author mentions shooting zebra for the laborers, the birds on the farm, but also giving up big game shooting as a farmer, remembering old safari tracks like the features of a friend.
Yeah, that sense of connection to the past landscape and the descriptions of smaller things like fireflies, adventurous lonely stars, or children with candles in the dark. A perfectly silent but frolicsome life.
Lovely. And the birds. Such detailed observations. The nightingale's brief song, the storks following fires as locust birds but with hearts turned north.
Plovers with their maritime air on the plains. Crested cranes stealing maize but dancing with such style, a sacred look trying to join heaven and earth.
And the greater hornbill. Those strange birds, exceedingly knowing, like fantastic articles of finery, talking like a party of inheritors.
And the flamingos, delicately colored, bizarre and recherche curves. But then That heartbreaking description of them suffering and dying on a boat journey, becoming just a slack cluster. Such a stark contrast between life and death.
Which brings us right back to that iguana at the start, doesn't it? The color just vanishing with death.
Exactly. The author realizes the beauty wasn't in the scales themselves, but in the live, impetuous blood, the soul.
She compares it to a native girl's bracelet losing its magic on her own arm, the beauty being a duet with the native skin.
Yes. And this leads to that feeling of injustice, like standing amongst graves. And the insight, that positive theory, for the sake of your own eyes and heart, shoot not the iguana.
It's advice about recognizing where value truly lies, isn't it? In the life force, the context, not the dead thing itself.
Precisely. The book also uses animals to explore philosophy in other ways, like the hyena in a menagerie. That discussion with the showman about, well, hermaphroditism, but also imprisonment, talent, happiness.
Yeah.
Are we happier with more talents if we're all prisoners anyway? Big questions.
And Count Schimmelmann's view that wild animals don't really exist until we see and name them, nature being extravagant.
Yeah, and the showman's simple counter. They see one another. Then the count questioning if giraffes see squares. The showman finally says God sees them. Maybe wild animals prove God's existence.
But that argument gets problematic back in Hamburg, away from the wild.
Right. It's context dependent.
Mm.
Then there's the snake. Count Schulman sees our aversion as a sound human instinct. Snakes are enemies, deadly but beautiful, round and smooth, exquisite soft coloring, gentle.
But only the godly man finds that beauty loathsome, smells perdition. He concludes, the man who can caress a snake can do anything. Quite a statement.
It is. And the showman, again, from his lived experience, offers the counter-advice. You must needs love snakes. It is the best advice. Two totally different philosophical takes, prompted by observing nature, about instinct, good, evil, appearance versus reality.
Okay, shifting gears again. Moments of profound human feeling. The earthquake experience, that's extraordinary.
It really is. Initial shock, fear of dying. But then, with the third shock, this overwhelming feeling of joy.
Joy during an earthquake.
Astonishing, isn't it?
Huh?
She compares it to Kepler discovering the laws of planetary motion. That rapture, feeling like God's waited thousands of years for someone to witness his work.
So what was the source of that joy, that colossal pleasure?
It was a realization, the consciousness, that something thought immovable, the earth itself, can move on its own accord. It had unbounded significance, like the earth laughed and cried out Galileo's phrase, "Et pour si muove," and yet it moves.
Wow. That's a powerful positive theory right there, finding joy and hope in inherent movement, in the possibility of change, even in the most solid things.
Absolutely. And then the contrast. The native interpretation the next morning, delivered calmly by Juma.
The King of England is dead. Just like that.
Okay.
A completely different way of making sense of the same event.
Exactly. So many different perspectives woven through.
The book also revisits native justice, reinforcing that principle of replacement. There's another story about Farah's little brother.
Yes. 10 years old, knocks out 2 teeth of a boy from another tribe. It's serious because it ruined the boy's looks. Might affect his marriage chances.
And the penance.
50 camels, half wear guilt, half the price of a life. And Farah thought they got off lightly. Again, weighing crime and livestock, laying the foundation of a tragedy over something seemingly small to an outsider.
Then there's the Swahili numeral system. This is fascinating. The dairyman saying they have not got 9 in Swahili.
Right. No 9 means no 19, no 90, no 900.
And the author initially found this original, courageous, a valid system in its own right.
She really muses on it, thinks about prime numbers, even numbers, the sum of digits test where 9 drops out. Wondering if it supports the system, even connects it to Zachariah, the houseboy missing a finger. Maybe it'd help with counting in base 8 or something.
She was later enlightened about how it actually worked, but she kept that feeling, didn't she? That alternative systems of thought can have their own validity, their own insights.
Yes, that's the key takeaway. A positive theory about different ways of structuring thought itself really makes you think.
It does, and the section on natives in verse is lovely too, during the maize harvest.
Oh, yeah. The author speaks this nonsensical Swahili verse just for the rhyme. Nungbe napenda jumbes malayambaya.
And the young workers, they gather around, understanding it's meaningless, but wait for the rhyme, and then they laugh.
Exactly. They can't find rhymes themselves, but they get the pleasure of it. And they beg her, speak again, speak like rain.
Speak like rain. What a beautiful connection between poetry and vital rain.
Isn't it? Then there's a deep exploration of pride. The farm's location near the game reserve gives it a certain character, neighbors of a great king, proud things about.
And the author defines a civilized person as someone who loves the pride of others, even adversaries, servants, lovers.
Yes, and her definition of pride itself is quite profound. It's faith in the idea that God had when he made us.
So a proud person is aware of that divine idea and tries to live up to it, not chasing happiness or comfort, but fulfilling that potential.
That's the essence. Their success is God's idea successfully carried through. They're in love with their destiny, like a good citizen fulfilling their duty.
Contrasted with people who lack pride, who take their value from the quotation of the day, who tremble before fate.
Exactly. And the call is to love the pride of God and love the pride of your neighbor as your own. Love the pride in lions, don't put them in zoos. In dogs, don't let them get fat. In your allies, no self-pity. Even in conquered nations, let them honor their parents.
That's a really powerful, positive philosophy about identity, value, dignity, rooted in recognizing this inherent worth.
It's very compelling. Then there's the section of the two races, with that striking analogy.
Comparing the relationship between white and black races to the relationship between the sexes.
Yes, the idea being that each group would be surprised, maybe hurt or indignant, to hear they didn't play a bigger role in the other's life than the other plays in theirs.
Like men's stories versus women's talk might reveal for the sexes, the author suggests white people's tales of natives prove it for the races.
That's the argument. But here's the interesting twist, from the author's perspective of the natives.
They wouldn't believe it. They'd laugh. Because they think white people are completely dependent on them.
Exactly. They believe white people have this all-absorbing interest and complete dependence on them. It flips the usual colonial perspective right on its head, offering this internal native view.
Fascinating. The book also doesn't shy away from personal feelings. Loneliness, minutes stripped from the clock, Farah knowing her sorrows.
That fear of losing the farm. Going to Mombasa, getting the bad news about the coffee harvest, just 40 tons. The world fading into that bleak and stifling Mombasa hotel room, becoming a symbol of the whole world.
But even then, there's that self-renewal, a midnight thought. 40 tons was something. Pessimism as a fatal vice. Looking forward to home again.
Yeah, the mind's great powers of self-renewal. Looking forward to her people, friends, seeing the Ngong Hills.
And then, after Denise's death, that period described as a maelstrom. Ground falling away, stars falling, Ragnarok. Feeling outside the normal course.
A time of immense grief and disorientation, searching for a central principle, for coherence in the universe.
Which leads to the idea of looking for a sign.
Yes. Described as an unreasonable thing to many people needing a particular state of mind, one born of grief, of searching. But the hope is, if a sign is found, maybe the coherence of things might become clear.
It's a profound reflection on grief, isn't it? And that human drive to find meaning, order, even when everything feels like chaos.
Absolutely. A very human impulse.
So as we sort of wrap up our exploration of this really quite remarkable book, it's clear how much it reveals so many different ways of seeing the world.
Definitely. It challenges assumptions, offers these fresh insights into human nature, culture, our connection to the natural world.
And engaging with these perspectives, reflecting on them, finding those unexpected connections, well, that's really the heart of what we try to do here on our podcasts.
And also on our YouTube channel, Mindful Moments. We really design those resources to help you develop your own critical thinking, find your own aha moments by digging into compelling material like this book.
Absolutely. And this book just leaves us with so much to chew on, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, just consider the different ways value gets defined within its pages.
Like the iguana's color just vanishing, or the Somali women's bride price being openly discussed, or native justice being measured in livestock.
Exactly. Or think about how perspective shapes reality. That Swahili numeral system creating its own logic. The native view of justice focusing on replacement, not blame.
Or even the earthquake, meaning something completely different depending on who's experiencing it. Terror, joy, or the death of a distant king.
It really encourages you, doesn't it, to keep thinking critically about the world around you and about the books, the stories, the experiences you encounter.
Definitely. And if this discussion has sparked your curiosity about this particular book, you can find links on where to purchase it in the description for this recording.
Please do subscribe so you don't miss future explorations of fascinating material like this.
And maybe share this with someone else who's curious about the world, about different ways of seeing things.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking those unexpected truths.